They told him there were no rooms left. But that was before a man named Jonathan Palmer walked in. What they didn't know was that Jonathan was not just any traveler. He was a billionaire with the power to rewrite their fate. The rain fell in sheets as Jonathan pulled his sleek black SUV into the circular driveway of the Grand Horizon Hotel in Naples, Florida. The golden glow of the chandeliers spilled out onto the wet pavement, reflecting an aura of luxury. For most, the hotel was a sanctuary, a haven of comfort for weary travelers. But tonight Jonathan wasn't met with that kind of welcome. As he stepped out of his car, adjusting the lapel of his tailored navy suit, Jonathan's striking presence was hard to miss at 6'2". His polished shoes echoed softly against the marble floor as he entered the lobby, where the scent of fresh-cut lilies mingled with the faint aroma of espresso from the nearby lounge. Approaching the reception desk with an easy smile, he said, "Good evening. I'd like a room for the night. My flight got delayed, and I'll need a place to stay before catching the next one." The front desk clerk, a younger man with slicked-back blonde hair sporting a name tag that read Evan, barely glanced up from his computer. "I'm sorry, sir," he said with a tone that lacked any semblance of sincerity. "We're fully booked." Jonathan looked around the lobby. It wasn't bustling. The soft chime of an elevator marked the arrival of only one other guest. Leaning forward slightly, his smile unwavering, he asked, "Fully booked, you say? Not even a single room?" Evan finally looked up, his lips curling into a thin smile. "That's correct. There's nothing available." Before Jonathan could respond, the revolving doors spun open, and a middle-aged couple entered, their suitcases wheeling behind them. Evan's demeanor shifted instantly. His smile widened, and his tone became honeyed. "Welcome to the Grand Horizon. Do you have a reservation?" When the man shook his head, Evan nodded enthusiastically. "Not a problem. Let me check for availability." Jonathan felt the weight of the moment settle in. This was not about availability. It was about something far uglier. The realization hit him, but he didn't react. Instead, he straightened his posture, his expression unreadable. "Thank you for your time," he said, his voice as composed as when he'd entered. Without another word, he turned on his heel and walked out into the rain. This wasn't the end of the night. It was only the beginning. Stepping back into the rain, Jonathan's mind remained calm despite the sting of the encounter. He stood under the hotel awning, letting the patter of rain on the canopy fill the silence. Pulling out his phone, he scrolled through a list of nearby hotels, but his attention remained fixed on the revolving doors behind him. He leaned casually against a marble pillar, just out of sight of the lobby but close enough to observe. A young man in his 20s, wearing cargo pants and a hoodie, strolled in, looking travel-worn with a backpack slung low over one shoulder. Jonathan watched as the man approached Evan with the same request he had made minutes earlier, a room for the night. Unable to hear the exchange, Jonathan didn't need to. Evan's exaggerated nods and wide smile spoke volumes. Within moments, the man was handed a key card. No hesitation, no excuses, just a swift transaction and a courteous farewell. Jonathan's lips pressed into a firm line. It wasn't an oversight. It wasn't an accident. It was intentional. He lingered a moment longer, contemplating his next move. His first instinct was to confront the clerk. Call out the hypocrisy right there in front of everyone. But years of navigating boardrooms and negotiations had taught him the value of restraint. There was a time to speak, and a time to act. Tonight, it would be the latter. Jonathan slipped back into his car, the leather seat cool against his back as he drove away, the hotel's golden lights fading in his rearview mirror. An idea began to take shape. This wasn't just about him. It was about every other person who might face the same quiet rejection but didn't have the means or voice to challenge it. Jonathan wasn't going to let this pass. Not tonight, not ever. The windshield wipers danced rhythmically as he navigated the wet streets of Naples. The hotel's rejection replayed in his mind, now not as a wound, but as fuel. He wasn't angry. Anger wasted energy. Instead, he felt something sharper, focused determination. He had spent decades building his empire by outsmarting those who underestimated him. Tonight, he would remind himself, and others, of the value of dignity and justice. Jonathan pulled into the parking lot of a nearby diner, a humble spot with a glowing red neon sign that read Sandy's 24/7 Eats. Inside, the smell of coffee and sizzling bacon greeted him as he slid into a booth by the window and pulled out his laptop. A waitress approached with a steaming mug of coffee and set it down without a word. He thanked her with a nod and began typing furiously. Jonathan had been eyeing the Grand Horizon Hotel for months. The property was part of a struggling chain, and whispers of its sale had reached his team during a routine investment meeting. He hadn't given it much thought at the time. It was a small fish compared to the global ventures he usually pursued. But tonight had changed everything. Minutes later, he dialed his attorney, Lisa Reynolds, a sharp negotiator known for closing deals at lightning speed. "Lisa, I need the paperwork on the Grand Horizon Hotel finalized by sunrise," he said, his voice steady but commanding. "Sunrise?" Lisa echoed, caught off guard. "That's ambitious, even for you." "Consider it done, Lisa," he replied, his tone leaving no room for debate. "Send the paperwork to my phone as soon as it's ready. I'll sign electronically." He hung up and stared out the window, watching the rain streak down the glass. Jonathan didn't just want to own the hotel, he wanted to set an example. A statement that actions have consequences, particularly when rooted in prejudice. As the hours crept by, Jonathan reviewed contracts and calculated immediate steps. By the time the first light of dawn broke, painting the sky in soft hues of orange and pink, the deal was sealed. The Grand Horizon Hotel was now his. Jonathan closed his laptop and took a deep breath. The coffee had gone cold, but he didn't care. The real work was about to begin. The morning sun glinted off the glass facade of the Grand Horizon Hotel as Jonathan stepped out of his car, a quiet confidence radiating from him. Dressed sharply in a charcoal grey suit, he adjusted his cufflinks and glanced up at the building, a symbol of exclusivity, its polished exterior hiding the floors beneath. Today, those floors would be exposed. The hotel staff were bustling about, preparing for another day of catering to their affluent guests, and Evan was already behind the counter, his polished demeanor firmly in place. He didn't notice Jonathan walk in, at least not at first. Jonathan took his time observing the space with fresh eyes. He noticed the staff exchanging brief glances as they passed him. Their expressions flickered with curiosity and subtle unease. It was perhaps the aura of authority he carried, hinting at something significant. When he approached the front desk, Evan's practiced smile appeared. "Good morning, sir. How can I help you today?" Jonathan didn't respond immediately. Instead, he set a small black folder on the counter, its edges sharp and pristine. He opened it slowly, revealing a stack of legal documents stamped and signed. "I'm here to make an introduction," Jonathan began, his tone measured but firm. "My name is Jonathan Palmer, and as of 6 a.m. this morning, I am the new owner of the Grand Horizon Hotel." The room seemed to hold its breath. The other staff members froze mid-task, heads turning toward the lobby. Evan's face turned a pale shade, his composure crumbling as he tried to process the words. "I don't understand," Evan stammered, his usual slick confidence nowhere to be found. "I'll make it simple," Jonathan continued, locking his eyes onto Evan's. "This hotel is now under my ownership, and last night, I had the pleasure of experiencing firsthand how some of the staff treat potential guests. Let's just say I was unimpressed." Evan's mouth opened, but no words came out. Jonathan held up a hand, silencing any attempt at an excuse. "No need to explain. Actions speak louder than words, and your actions spoke volumes." Turning to address the staff now gathered in the lobby, their faces a mix of apprehension and curiosity, Jonathan continued, "I believe in running businesses that represent fairness, respect, and inclusivity. Unfortunately, this hotel fell short of that standard. But that's going to change, starting today." The tension in the room was palpable, yet Jonathan didn't let it linger. "You'll all have the opportunity to grow with this new chapter, except for those who refuse to treat every guest with dignity. I don't tolerate prejudice in any form." Evan's face flushed red, and he muttered something under his breath, but Jonathan didn't give him the chance to speak. "Your actions last night have no place in the future of this hotel. You're dismissed, effective immediately." Evan's jaw dropped, but the words hung in the air, final and absolute. The other staff looked on, some nodding subtly, others exchanging glances. Jonathan felt the shift, a ripple of understanding spreading through the room. Evan stormed out of the lobby, his face flushed with anger and humiliation, but Jonathan remained unbothered as he shifted his focus to the remaining staff, whose uncertainty was now mixed with a glimmer of hope. "I want to be clear," Jonathan began, pacing slowly, his voice firm but not unkind. "This isn't just about what happened last night. This is about the culture of this hotel, the message it sends, and the experience it provides to every person who walks through those doors." The staff hung on Jonathan's words, their attention unwavering. "What happened last night wasn't just a slight against me. It was a reflection of something larger, a mindset that has no place here. From this moment forward, this hotel will represent respect and inclusion. That means change, starting with new policies and training." Jonathan gestured to a young woman near the concierge desk. "What's your name?" "Leah," she replied, her voice tentative. "Well, Leah," he said, offering her a reassuring smile, "you and the rest of the team will undergo comprehensive training to ensure every guest feels valued, regardless of who they are or where they come from." Leah nodded, her initial apprehension softening into understanding. Jonathan could see the others beginning to relax as well, their shoulders less rigid, their expressions more open. But he pressed on. "I'm not here to punish unfairly. Mistakes happen, and growth is possible if you embrace change. There's a place for you here, but if not, it's better for all of us to part ways." Jonathan let the silence linger for a moment, giving his words time to settle. This hotel has the potential to be more than just a place to sleep or hold conferences. It can be a beacon, a symbol of what hospitality should be. With the right team, I know we can make that happen. He paused, surveying the room. The atmosphere had shifted dramatically since his entrance. Where there had been fear and tension, there was now cautious optimism. "I've already put the wheels in motion," he added. "A new general manager will be arriving next week, and renovation plans will begin immediately. This is a fresh start for all of us." With a faint smile, he concluded, "Let's make this hotel something we can all be proud of." The staff exchanged glances, some whispering softly amongst themselves. Jonathan could see that his message had resonated, the foundation for change had been laid. The weeks that followed were nothing short of revolutionary for the Grand Horizon Hotel. Construction crews moved in almost immediately, transforming everything from outdated decor to the hotel's infrastructure. The cold, sterile walls were repainted in warm, inviting tones, and the lobby was transformed into a space that felt welcoming, a place where anyone could walk in and feel they belonged. Jonathan took a hands-on approach, personally overseeing much of the process. He wasn't the kind of leader who barked orders from afar. He was present, engaging with staff and guests alike. His energy was infectious, inspiring the team to embrace the vision he had laid out. Training sessions became the backbone of the transformation. Professionals were brought in to lead workshops on diversity, equity, and inclusion. These weren't lectures, these were conversations. Staff shared their experiences, confronted their biases, and learned how to create an environment of genuine hospitality. Leah, the young concierge Jonathan had spoken to on his first morning, quickly became a standout. Her natural empathy and knack for problem-solving earned her a promotion to assistant manager. "I never thought I'd have this kind of opportunity," she admitted to Jonathan during one of their check-ins. He simply smiled and said, "You earned it." Word of the hotel's transformation spread quickly. Former guests, drawn by curiosity, returned to see the changes for themselves. New guests arrived, intrigued by the stories of how the hotel had turned itself around. Reviews poured in, filled with praise, not just for the luxurious accommodations but for the atmosphere of kindness and respect permeating every interaction. The former prejudiced reputation of the Grand Horizon Hotel was replaced by one of inclusivity and excellence. Jonathan made sure to highlight the stories of team members who had grown and thrived through the process, showing the world that change wasn't just possible, it was powerful. On a crisp morning, Jonathan stood in the newly renovated lobby, sipping a cup of freshly brewed coffee. Sunlight streamed through the large windows, illuminating the polished marble floors and fresh flowers adorning every corner. Guests bustled in and out, greeted warmly by the staff, each interaction a testament to the hotel's transformation. Leah approached him, holding a clipboard. Mr. Palmer, the final guest survey results are in. Over 90% of visitors mentioned the hospitality as the highlight of their stay. Jonathan smiled, setting his cup down. That's what I like to hear, Leah. It's not just about the building. It's about the people in it. As she walked away to handle another task, Jonathan took a moment to reflect. The journey had transcended a mere business venture. It had become a reminder of the power of standing up for what's right. He thought back to the night he had been turned away. That moment sparked change, transforming the hotel and everyone involved, including himself. Meanwhile, Evan, the former front desk clerk, learned his own lessons the hard way. News of his dismissal had spread quickly, and opportunities in the industry dried up. Eventually, he found work in a much humbler setting where he was forced to confront his prejudices daily. For the first time, he began to understand the weight of his actions. Back at the Grand Horizon, Jonathan noticed a family arriving, parents with 2 young children in tow. The father, a man who bore more than a passing resemblance to Jonathan, paused to shake his hand. "I read about what you did here," the man said. "It's inspiring." "Thank you," Jonathan replied, his expression warm. "This place is for everyone now." "That's how it should have always been," the father echoed as the family moved on. Jonathan turned toward the entrance, a lighter heart swelling in his chest. He had built many things in his life: companies, fortunes, legacies. But this was different. In the end, the Grand Horizon Hotel was more than a building. It was a symbol and a reminder that change begins with a single act of courage and the belief that every person deserves respect. As Jonathan stepped back into the bustling lobby, he felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment. He had not only transformed a hotel, he had sparked a movement for change that reached far beyond its walls, a legacy that would inspire others for generations to come. Jonathan knew that standing up for justice and inclusivity would ripple through the community, creating waves of positive change that would continue to grow. The world was watching, and this was just the beginning of an exciting new journey. A journey built on integrity, respect, and the belief that every guest deserved to feel like they belonged.